afternoon. Good afternoon, music world. John here from What's Spinning. Here tonight with my first ever starter pack that I'm kind of doing for the channel. It's something that I've wanted to do for a while, and I know that I'm a little late with when I said I was going to get this out. But I posted a poll about a month ago, and the wonderful genre of power pop and the wonderful genre of power pop did win just by a little bit. And in a few months, I'm going to be doing a Britpop starter pack and a black metal starter pack a few months after that. But for right now, we're going to be talking about best albums to get into the genre with the jangliest guitars and the catchiest hooks. I'm talking about power pop. Now, I've never done anything like this on the channel, so without further ado, I want to lay out some ground rules. First up, as always, this is just opinion. I don't consider myself to be a power pop expert, but I do consider myself to be an avid fan of the genre and have been for years. Ground rule number 2, if you don't see your favorite album on here, don't be too surprised. I chose the 8 records that I felt like would be the easiest to get into for a newbie in the genre. And ground rule number 3, no cheap trick. I'm sorry, I'm not a cheap trick guy, sorry. So without further ado, 8 records that I feel like are the easiest to get into in the power pop genre that will send you down the rabbit hole, so to speak. And I'm going to start off with the granddaddy of them all. I'm talking about Big Star's #1 record. I mean, this is probably going to be a surprise to no one that it's on here. It's the granddaddy of them all, my friends, and one of the greatest cult classics of all time. Big Star, if you don't know them, they are one of the founding fathers of power pop and one of the most revered names in the genre. And, you know, what a better place to start off. It is just such a pleasant record from start to finish. The guitars are just so jangly, and the hooks are also feel good. They'll stick with you all day. Really, really sweet, too. And it's done with an abundance of flair. The charisma throughout this entire project is nothing short of impressive. Just don't be too surprised if you're humming the hooks for the rest of the day. Coming up next, a little bit of a deep cut, a forgotten classic in the genre, but definitely one that you shouldn't miss. It would be the Shoes record, Present Tense. It is such an underrated gem all around, but it's also one of my personal favorites. If you love that raw power pop sound of the 70s, but maybe want a little bit of a different twist, this could be the record for you. A lot of this record has a very bright, peppy, almost British invasion sound to it. It does sound very often ripped out of the 60s, but it doesn't drag this album down at all. As a matter of fact, it kind of sets it apart. And yeah, it's a pretty short, sweet, and, you know, straightforward record that is just packed with memorable hook after memorable hook. I mean, tracks like Tomorrow Night and Hanging Around With You are just classics in the genre. If you're looking for power pop with maybe a little bit of a different twist, it may be something for you. Coming up next, I have another one of the founding fathers of power pop. It's going to be Badfinger's Straight Up record. It's another album that just I feel like is a really great place to start. And it's an album that's been a part of my life for quite some time. I grew up sort of a classic rock head in my early teens and grew up and during that time, I kind of looked at this record as, you know, sort of a guilty pleasure, a cult classic in my book. Mostly because, you know, at the time, I wasn't as into the poppier stuff, but the hooks on this record kept speaking to me. Yeah, the hooks on this record, they are ridiculous. They bleed power pop. Day after day, The Name of the Game, and of course, Baby Blue are some of the genre's biggest singles. It also just plays super easily. You don't have to turn your brain on for most of this record. It's just really consistent, too. Another cult favorite of mine up next, another forgotten classic to an extent, Raspberries Fresh. Of all the records here, this is one of the shortest and easiest to take in, and it's considered another cult classic of the genre. This thing is all killer, no filler. The hooks on this thing, they are just so easygoing and sweet. It's got a very carefree sound to it, and once again, like the Shoes record, it does have almost a 60s appeal to it. And tracks like I Want to Be With You and Let's Pretend are some of the biggest power pop singles ever, and some of the most near and dear to the hearts of the genre. And what's great about some of these 70s power pop releases, they are so easy to just turn on and drift away and enjoy them and smile and feel good. Now, if those older records aren't your fancy, I do have a couple of recommendations for more modern records. First up, for like the 90s pick, I guess here, definitely going with the self-titled Fountains of Wayne record. Now, this one was a toss-up. I could have gone Utopia Parkway or Welcome Interstate Managers. They are all great records. But the debut is just so good. It's got a little grunginess to it. Some of these riffs, they got some bite to them. But what kept But what has kept me coming back year after year for seconds and thirds is the songwriting here. Not only is every hook on this record a serious earworm, but Adam Schlesinger and Chris Collingwood were just really ahead of their time, a dynamic duo in the songwriting department. The wordplay and the humor of this record is really unmatched, and just a fantastic record all around. Another heavy hitter up next, the New Pornographers. I decided to go with Mass Romantic here, and once again, I was kind of on a toss-up as far as what album to go with. I could have gone down the path of Electric Version or Together. But the debut, Mass Romantic, it is the most overtly power pop thing in their discography. Now, y'all may not know this about me, but the New Pornographers are legitimately one of my favorite bands of all time. And this record is great. The keyboards are quirky, the hooks pop so damn hard, and because New Pornographers are a supergroup at the end of the day, Dan Behar, Carl Newman, and Nico Case all bring very unique personalities to the table as well as style. Definitely check this record out. It's got some real heavy hitters on there, and if you enjoy it, go down the rabbit hole and listen to Electric Version and Together. Coming up next, another personal favorite of mine, it would be the Exploding Hearts, Guitar Romantic. One of the most tragic stories. If you don't know it, definitely look into it. But also one of my favorite debut records of all time. I mean, God, the record is just so goddamn good. I mean, it sounds like the skeeziest, sketchiest, and sweatiest punk band in all of New York went and did a 60s cover record. Not only that, but it just sounds like they took in all the British invasion that they could and just spit it out. It's a dirty record. It just sounds scuzzy and fuzzy, sweaty too, but every last hook, every last guitar line is gold. Really incredible record. And finally, in my little starter pack that I have put together for y'all, I'm going to put White Reapers, the world's best American band. These guys are easily my modern faves in the genre, and seriously a band that is absolutely doing this sound so much justice right now. They've been killing it the past few years. Initially, they were more of a garage rock band, if anything, but over the years, they've just incorporated more and more pop, and this seems to be the best medium, I feel like, because there's still a lot of gritty, grimy, grungy garage rock riffs throughout this record. It does have a little snarl to it still. It also has a lot of the machismo and charisma that the genre's forefathers had. The riffs on this record are towering. A lot of this thing sounds like it was ripped out of the 70s to an extent, but man, is it good. And it is a pop album at heart. And if you like the album, check out their latest release, as well as the You Deserve Love record. I also do have a few quick honorable mentions that I'd like to point you in the direction of. And also, if you enjoyed this video, I dropped a playlist down below to help kickstart your starter pack. A quick few honorable mentions. First up, Weezer's The Blue album. Before Pinkerton toyed with the modern emo sound, I mean, the Blue record, I mean, it's got so much pop appeal to it. It's a set of nerdy, heartbroken tracks just fueled by positive vibes and catchy riffs and hooks that stuck with you. And if that's not power pop, I don't know what is. And it goes a lot farther than the classic singles here. Also, want to tip my cap to Teenage Fanclub with Bandwagon-esque. And yeah, they've kind of come this more indie rock-based band, but a lot of people forget those first few years, that was all power pop, baby. This thing is just chock full of jangly riffs and hooks that will stick with you. But it's also got a little bit of an edge to it. There's a lot of guitar feedback, some scuzzy riffs. It's great. Also, want to give a shout out to Material Issues International. Pop Overthrow came this close to making my actual starter pack, because this is a real personal favorite of mine. I've been aware of the band for quite some time. I grew up with tracks like Valerie Loves Me, but the energy of this record is just so infectious. It's got a little punky edge to it. It's super consistent as well. And finally, if you want maybe a little bit of a grittier and heavier power pop release, check out Copper Blue from Sugar. This is the side project of Bob Mould from Husker Du. The riffs on this thing are punky and thrilling. They certainly do have an edge to it. But the hooks here absolutely soar. I mean, they absolutely freaking soar. Give it a listen, as well as the Beaster EP that quickly followed this record up. But for now, that's going to do it with our Power Pop Starter Pack. Let me know what you think down below. And as always, have a great day, friends.